The episode starts when Mr. Boss calls all the employees of the Smiling Friends Company. So there comes Mr. Boss sitting on his chair in the office with his son Jason, who was lying on the table asleep at, while Charlie, Pim, Alan, Tyler, and Gleb Simpson were standing in front of them. Mr. Boss tells them that he has two pieces of news for them, good news and bad news. All of them looked curious. Mr. Boss says that he needs to fire one of the employees at Smiling Friends Company, and he says that Tyler is fired. At that moment, Charlie gets emotional and says that if Mr. Boss is firing Tyler, then it means that he would be fired too. But Tyler consoles Charlie and says that it's okay, Charlie, you should stay and I'll get a go. After when Tyler had left, Mr. Boss told the other employees that he had found a magical red jewel among Spanish people. He wanted to go there, but he told them that he didn't know even a bit of Spanish language, so how was he supposed to go there alone? Here, Pim casually tells Charlie and Alan that he can speak some Spanish. Mr. Boss hears it and becomes excited. He says to Pim that he is going with him now. Charlie wondered that it was not Spanish, but Spanish with a num he never heard of before. In the next moment, Pim was sitting in Mr. Boss's car while he was sitting in the driver's seat, navigating through the road. Before leaving, Mr. Boss hands over his little son to Charlie and says that Charlie and Alan have to take care of his 18-year-old son, and to let them know if he needs anything. Now Mr. Boss starts driving rapidly and ends up hitting upon a car. Despite the car crash, he didn't care and was out of sight soon. When Mr. Boss and Pim had left, Charlie and Alan stood in Mr. Boss's office where the tiny son of Mr. Boss was lying on a table. Charlie and Alan were randomly talking about what was going on in Mr. Boss's head about the magical jewel. In no time, they started an argument over something, and then they kept arguing and shouting. Gleb didn't care about his surroundings. While both Charlie and Alan were in a serious debate, a scream interrupted them. They got startled, and when they turned on their heels to notice, it was Jason, the 18-year-old son of Mr. Boss. After screaming this hard, Jason suddenly turns into a fried piece of meat. The entirely unexpected and frightening moment left Charlie and Alan's jaws apart, wondering how on earth this happened. Mr. Boss and Pim entered the Spantopia. Pim was telling Mr. Boss about how he learned this language. The people in Spantopia were strange, and they were like vibing and dancing to music. They were saying, "Welcome to Spantopia. Enjoy your stay here. Don't break our rules. There is a big rule, don't make eye contact with any of us, because it is very offensive." At the same moment, Mr. Boss tells Pim that he has heard these people are strict about their rules. Mr. Boss and Pim went to a magician to ask him the important information about the red jewel. When they entered the place where the magician was, they saw many strange people. They both decide to obey the rules, and Mr. Boss says that he will speak and Pim will have to translate it to the magician without making eye contact. Pim agrees. They visit the magician and ask him favors. The magician asks for money in return. While the magician was counting the money, a large mosquito came and started sucking the magician's round plane, or you can say bald head. The mosquito was sucking with a great pressure, creating a creepy sound. Pim was feeling scared seeing all of this. Nevertheless, the magician appeared to be normal at it, and suddenly a blood vessel from his head burst, showering blood out. Pim couldn't help himself and ended up making eye contact. Silly boy broke the rule. Charlie and Alan were in great trouble. They were not understanding how Jason suddenly turned into this strange and freaking state. Charlie was searching for Mr. Boss's things to find any solution. Alan says to him that there is no use in doing anything. Jason is already dead. But Charlie doesn't believe it and tries to help him catch a breath. Charlie hit upon a plan and asked Gleb to act like Mr. Boss' son because he was almost the same size. But Alan again finds it useless, and even Gleb refuses to act like Jason. So as Pim had broken the rule of not making eye contact, he and Mr. Boss were arrested, and the magician was truly angry. It comes out that the magician was the king of Spantopia. He gathered all the people who dared to make eye contact with him and started killing them on the spot. Pim was afraid of being killed. He apologized to Mr. Boss because he knew he messed up. Mr. Boss says that it's okay, there's no need to worry as he has a plan. Mr. Boss opens his nose, brings a chip, and asks Pim to take it. Before Pim can take action, the king comes towards Pim and picks him up for killing him. Pim apologized, but it was too late to mend. When nothing was working, Pim started reciting a Spanish prayer. Listening to the chant, the king suddenly stops and asks him about what he just said. Pim says that it was a Spanish prayer. The king was astonished to see that Pym was one of those people who once did him favors. Because of that nostalgic attack, King forgives Pym. Pym says a good word to him in return, consoling him that his weak eyes will be fine soon. The king stands and announces that there will be no rules in Spantopia from today. Instantly, the inhabitants of Spantopia start celebrating and also get weird the next moment, destroying their own place. King happily gives the magical red jewel to Mr. Boss as a gift that saved endangered lives. Mr. Boss and Pym return to their town. When they return, Charlie and Alan tell them that Jason is dead. Alan shows the dead roasted body of Jason to Mr. Boss. Mr. Boss started crying and crumbled down on his knees. Suddenly, Mr. Boss remembers the magical jewel he had. He stood up and raised the jewel on the dead body of Jason. Magically, Jason comes out of a shell and starts flying in the room with his new butterfly wings. While flying, he released an irritating smoke that was destructive. Due to that smoke, everyone in the office collapsed and a red alert started ringing. The episode ends where Charlie and Tyler hanging out with drinks in their hands. They were true friends.